On Thursday night, the Richmond Tigers pulled off one of the most stunning upsets in AFL history with their opening win of the season. Having performed extremely poorly the previous year and losing 1,268 games of experience in the off-season, the expectations were low for Richmond in 2025. Some people even questioned whether they would win a game this year. Carlton, on the other hand, had very high aspirations for the upcoming season. Under Michael Voss, the Blues had made significant improvements, making a preliminary final in 2023 and following it up with another finals appearance in 2024. Going into 2025, there were mixed opinions on how they would perform. Some predicted them to fall down the ladder, while others tipped them to go all the way and win the premiership. Regardless of where you thought they would finish on the ladder though, it was clear they were heavily favoured to comfortably beat the Tiger Cubs. Halfway through the second quarter, it appeared everything was going to plan for the Blues, a Zach Williams snap extending their lead to 41 points. At this point, a 15-plus goal blowout was on the cards, but just when it looked like things were about to get out of hand, Richmond managed to snag a few goals late before half-time and bring the margin back to something respectable and manageable. With a couple of quick goals from youngsters Seth Campbell and Sam Lawler to start the third term, the margin was all of a sudden back to 13 points. They didn't stop there either, kicking 5 goals to 1 and levelling the scoreboard at three-quarter time. All of a sudden, this game had been flipped on its head, but surely Carlton would steady the ship in the final quarter and run over the top of this young Tigers outfit, right?
The future, Wiedering taken off it, Mansell, Lawler over the top, the handball is good, Ross thumps it long, seconds will tick by, the ball will bounce, the run is on, the ball sits, it's off, it's through, it is a goal! Seth Campbell, bang, bang, bang!
From 41 points down in the second term, Richmond managed to complete an extraordinary and unbelievable upset victory, some even calling it the greatest in AFL history. So where does it stack up against other famous underdog victories? Let's look back at a few more in this video and see how it compares. Going back a few years to 2021, round 1 that year also provided us with one of the great modern day upset victories. In the opening round of the season, Geelong headed over the border to take on the Crows at Adelaide Oval, where they were fancied to return home with a comfortable victory. The Cats were coming off a grand final loss the previous year and were tipped to go one step further in 2021 with the additions of Jeremy Cameron, Sean Higgins and Isaac Smith. The Crows, on the other hand, were the 2020 Wooden Spooners and were viewed as having an even worse list going into 2021. It was the Crows, however, who came out firing early, kicking 4 goals to 2 in the first quarter and leading by 13 points at the first break. They continued their early dominance with ferocious tackling pressure and a 3-goal quarter from Taylor Walker to stretch the lead out to 38 points at halftime. The lead got out to as big as 43 points during the third quarter, and it looked like nothing would stop the Crows from charging towards a big opening round victory. 4 late goals in the quarter from Geelong though quickly turned the game on its head, and all of a sudden the margin was just 19 points at three-quarter time. It seemed as if the more experienced Geelong outfit was going to run over the top of the much younger Crows team and spoil the party. Much to the surprise of most of the AFL world, however, the Crows fought hard in the final term and managed to hold on to secure a narrow 12-point win and create a massive round 1 boil-over. Keeping on topic with round 1 upsets, let's go back a few more years to 2014 when GWS took on the Sydney Swans. This match was notable for being Lance Franklin's first game for the Sydney Swans, and it was expected he would pick up a comfortable win against the team entering just its 3rd season in the competition. The previous year, GWS had managed only 1 win from 22 games, and in their previous matchup with the Swans, they copped a whopping 129-point defeat. The game started more or less as expected. GWS were putting up a reasonable effort, but the Swans had broken out to a lead of 24 points halfway through the second term. The Giants continued to fight though and managed to claw back the margin to 7 points at half-time and just 3 points at the final break. At this point, the Swans were still heavy favourites to run away with the game, but the Giants were having none of it. From the 16-minute mark of the last quarter, they booted the final 5 goals of the game and charged home to secure a 32-point victory, the first in their history against the crosstown rivals. The West Coast Eagles in 2023 were a historically bad team. The once powerful club had nosedived down the ladder in recent years due to a combination of bad list management and horrific luck with injuries. Going into their round 23 matchup with the Western Bulldogs, they were sitting on bottom of the ladder, with their most recent game being a 101-point drubbing at the hands of Freo, a record equaling 5th triple figures loss for the season. The Bulldogs, on the other hand, were sitting 8th and needed to win to lock up a final spot. With finals on the line and their opponent having seemingly checked out for the season, surely the Dogs would put the Eagles to the sword. While the start of the game certainly didn't go to plan, the Eagles booted 5 of the first 6 goals of the game to take an early lead that they would hold for the entirety of the first half. Fortunately for the Dogs, they managed to arrest all the Eagles' momentum and claw their way back in front by three-quarter time. The danger wasn't over yet for the Dogs, but surely they couldn't stuff this up, could they?
Cripps, could he? He can now. He's 40 out. He's not a sharpshooter for nothing. But they're still alive. It's true. It is! 4th straight goal for Jamie Cripps. From every angle, he's been putting them through. And he knocks that one down from dead in front. And they lead by 15.
It was panic stations once again for the Dogs. 4 goals to start the final quarter, and all of a sudden the game had swung completely into West Coast favour. The Dogs answered back with a Rory Lobb goal, but with 6 minutes to go in the game, Jamie Cripps slotted his 5th goal and almost sealed the result. In the end, a late Cody Waitman goal wasn't enough, and a remarkable upset victory was completed for the West Coast Eagles, all but ending the Dogs' finals hopes in the process. A year prior, the Eagles managed another extremely unexpected win over Collingwood in round 4. The Pies had started the year well, winning their first 2 games before narrowly going down to an impressive July. The Eagles were going into this game winless and with an injury list that looked like it's fair to say no one thought that they would win this. The match was close for the entire game. The undermanned Eagles were putting up a serious fight. The Pies went into the final break with a narrow lead, but it was the Eagles who came back strong, kicking 5 goals to 1 in the final term to clinch the most unexpected victory. West Coast after this would go on to lose their next 7 games by 50 points or more, and their next 9 games in. Essendon in 2016 were doomed from the start. Prior to the beginning of the season, 34 past and present Essendon players were handed yearly, which included 12 players who are still currently on Essendon's list for that season. These players included Captain Joe Watson, Vice-Captain Dyke, as well as many other key. After the suspensions were handed down, any expectations for Essendon to perform. And similarly to Richmond this year, there were some people genuinely questioning whether they would win a single. Their first game of the year did nothing to make any of these questions go away as they copped a 61-point loss to a Gold Coast team who had finished 16th on the ladder in 20. Going into round 2 against Melbourne, expectations were set. Melbourne at this time were by no means a power, but they had been improving the last few seasons and were tipped to win. The game didn't go to plan for Melbourne, as Essendon showed up with a real hunger and design. It was a tight contest the whole way through, with Essendon leading for the majority of before the second game at Darcy Parish came up with a match.
The kid, Parish or Zaharakis? Zaharakis, he's got Parish! Parish! They pick 5! Delivers!
The final big upset we'll look back at in this video is one of the most famous home and away matches in history, the infamous Super game. The mighty 2000 Essendon team had come into this game undefeated after and looked very capable of going the entire season with loss. The Dogs were 6th on the ladder and by no means a bad team, but they were clearly a tier or 2 below if they were to pull off an underdog win, then they would have to plan something that Essendon wouldn't expect, and that did. Bulldogs coach Terry Wallace implemented a revolutionary game plan that changed the way the game was played. The Bombers during this time period had one of the greatest forward lines with silver service from an awesome lineup, and no other team up until this point had figured out how to stifle their attacking. Wallace's new flooding strategy was designed to clog up Essendon's attacking 50 and shut down space for Lloyd and co to operate, and it rattled Essendon to start off with. The Bulldogs got out to an early lead and managed to hold it for the majority of the first half. However, the Bombers started to figure out how to counter the flooding as the game went on. An early goal in the final term put the Bombers out to a 21, by which point the Dogs had started to rethink their. Wallace and the Bulldogs went back to a more traditional attacking game plan for the remainder of the last quarter and the change-up proved. The Dogs surged home with the last 5 goals of the game, including a match winner from Chris Grant in the final 2 minutes.
He ran out onto the left foot.
This is where Hudson was last week, exactly the same spot.
36th position.
Go the left foot.
He kicked the goal to bring him back into the game.
It's a great kick. He's kicked it. A magnificent effort.
They were some of the biggest upsets in AFL history. So how does the Richmond Carlton game stack up? Would love to know your thoughts in the comments below, and of course, as always, if you enjoy this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.